Hi everybody, and I just want to go through some basics before we start the class. Just remember to look at the syllabus and check the dates. If you have any questions about the dates, please message me on the Kakao group chat or message me via my email address that's in the syllabus. And if you haven't already, please check which Google Classroom you need to be signed on to. The passwords are there. If you need any help with the Google Classroom, please again send me a message using Kakao Talk or ask another student who's already signed on to Google Classroom. If you go onto the website, it should help you give you instructions about how to sign up for the class. Another thing you need to make sure that you get done is to be on the IQ Online practice. This you can find at the front of your book, the first 2 pages. If you follow the instructions there and sign up for my class, you can see on this slide here the class codes that I've recommended for you to join. Please make sure you join the right class, because I'll need to check to see whether you've done the work that I've assigned you through this website. This is the schedule for 003. There will be this won't be the complete schedule. If you have any questions about that, you need to contact me. As you know, due to the coronavirus, the schedules had to be changed slightly this semester, but if you just check through there, that'll give you details about the midterms, the projects and the finals. And if you have any more questions, as I said, contact me. This schedule is for my 023 class. Again, as I said previously to the other class, look at there for the midterms, the projects, the finals and other relevant dates. If you have questions about holidays, contact me. And this one's for my 029 class, and again all the dates are there, midterms, finals, projects, and as I said, any questions, contact me. So this is also the schedule for class 026. Check the midterm dates, the final dates, the project dates and other dates that are relevant to you, and let me know if you have any questions. If we haven't done the midterm already, if this class is before the midterm, please make sure you understand about the role plays for the midterms. Here's the slide for that, and there's lots of information there, and I think it would be good for you to remember that everyone should be involved in role plays, whether it's for the midterm or not, that all students should participate thoroughly in that role play. So these are the what you need to study for the midterm and the finals. If we haven't done the midterms yet, please check units 1, 2, 3 and 4. You can see the pages that are required on there. So unit 1, for example, has a vocabulary questions from page 7 and grammar from page 20. The finals, if we've done the midterm already, don't forget the finals cover units 5, 6 and 7, and also the pages are there. If you have any questions about unit 7, because it's been blanked off there, let me know, but you should find those on my PPTs that I send via the Kakao open chat. This is a reminder about the project work. It's got the link on there. Actually, I've sent you the same slide to the Kakao Talk chat room, and I think if you just go on to the project project table, which is on my Google Drive, and you can find more information about the projects there. Don't forget to work as a team to try to meet the deadlines, which are on the deadline pages, the schedule pages of the slides. So good luck. So today's Unit 6, and if we go to Unit 6, you can see that the unit is called Education, and on page 126 the unit question is one road to success better than another? And what I want to do before we start this is talk about a movie called Napoleon Dynamite. This is a very quirky and unusual and eccentric movie from America, and it's like a comedy. It's about this young boy at school. His name is Napoleon Dynamite, and he's very socially awkward. He's 16 years old, and he lives with his grandmother and his older brother Kip, who's unemployed and just spends a lot of time chatting to girls on the internet. So this movie's quite an unusual film, and the actor's name is John Heder, and honestly this film is quite funny and a bit random and a little bit unusual, but it gives you some insight into school life in America in some ways, although I gotta say the perspective of the director is very strange and not at all like the normal American movies about school. If you get to see it till the end, if you watch the movie, there's a really funny dance scene at the end where he has to do some dancing, and yeah, it's just about school life, and I guess it's about small America, like little towns in America. So I recommend you either watch the movie or you go onto YouTube and you watch some of the video clips from the movie. I think the movie was highly rated. I think a lot of critics liked the movie. On IMDb it got 6.9 out of 10, and on Rotten Tomatoes it got 71%, and it's described by them as quirky and offbeat in a small Idaho town. So it's kind of like countryside in America, and I guess if I could compare it to a Korean movie like Welcome to Dongmago, is a kind of similar type of humor, very quirky and strange. And yeah, and I think a lot of the audience, 74% of the audience liked it, and 71% of the critics liked it on Rotten Tomatoes. So another film I'd like to talk about, which is set around education, is the movie Back to the Future. This movie is a time-traveling sci-fi movie, but it's most of the movie is set around the lives of young people. So in the movie, the character Marty McFly travels back in time by accident because he gets inside a time machine and travels back to the 1950s, where he meets his mum and dad, and he changes the course of history because his mother accidentally falls in love with him, and so she never falls for his father in the end. And because of this, he starts to vanish, he starts to disappear, and so he has to try to get his mum and dad to fall in love with each other. And so it's a kind of interesting movie. It was very highly rated. It was actually made in 1985. I was 10 years old when this film was made. None of you were probably born at this time. And he's a high school student, and the director's name is Robert Zemeckis, and on the IMDb website the rating is 8.5 out of 10, which is really good. popularity is 186 out of all the movies ever made, which is not bad. And then there's another website called Rotten Tomatoes. They also gave it a really high score. So the critics gave it 96%, and the audience score, meaning the people who watched the movie, gave it 94%, and that's out of 1 million people who'd seen the movie. So I'd recommend you watch the movie. There's a lot of trailers online, or you can download the film, and the famous actor is Michael J. Fox, and Christopher Lloyd is this crazy scientist called Dr. Emmett Brown, who creates the time machine. And if you watch it, you'll see there's a lot of interesting interaction between characters. At one point he's in the school and faces his father and the father's bullies. So it's quite an intriguing and interesting movie. I think the music from the movie is also very retro. It's very sort of 1950s and 60s music, so I recommend you watch that. So in South Korea, most young people go to university, but sometimes young people don't want to study at university straight away. Sometimes young people don't want to study at university. They'd rather either get a job, or they want to do something else, rest a while, or even travel or do voluntary work. So this is a mind map that I'd like you to do about taking a gap year, and what are the kind of things that people do on gap years, and what are the pros and cons of a gap year. Like some people, I didn't really take a gap year, but I did do a voluntary year, and I worked volunteering. But lots of people have different things they like to do. So I mean, for example, some people want to save up money for study, so they get a job and they try to get a good job. Some only get part-time work, which isn't so great. Others want to travel around the world, so they get some money from their parents, or they get some money from a part-time job, and then they sort of travel to every continent and as many good countries as they can, mostly in Europe or the USA. And that's exciting, sometimes a little dangerous, but very fun. And sometimes people just want to sort of be with their families and spend a lot of time at home and just talk to their families. So the other thing is, gap years don't have to be an unproductive year. Some people want to do something, and you can put that on your resume. For example, adventure travel, which we talked about. You could also work abroad. You can do au pairing, where you look after children. There's like camp jobs where you can teach football in America, or taekwondo. There's kind of learning that you could do which is not based on university. You could do something like barista learning or something else. And all of these have pros and cons. You could do an internship before university. You can work abroad. You can be a journalist. You can do a language immersion, so you can go and live in England for a year and just become fluent in English. You can sort of study medicine to help situations around the world. If you think about all the problems right now with the diseases in the world, you could probably help with that. You could perhaps spend time making music. I know my friend likes to make jazz. You could go scuba diving. You could be a ski instructor, a swimming instructor. You could teach Korean abroad. You could do sports coaching, as I mentioned before. Like you can do a number of things, and one of them could be volunteering, which I mentioned before. So there's volunteering is needed, and is needed, and it can look good on your resume, but you don't get paid, so it can be quite hard and a little bit of suffering for you if you do volunteering. There's all sorts of leadership training and work experience. When you think about it, you don't want your gap year to be just wasted. If you have a gap year, why not use it productively and then put it on your resume to say what you did, you know. So if anyone asks, oh, you've got 2 years or 1 year here where you seem to have done nothing, it doesn't look good on the resume. But if you say, oh, at that time I went abroad and I taught Korean, and I traveled around Indonesia and I helped volunteering and things like that, people will see that as a very positive contribution, and that will look very good on your resume. So yeah, I mean, just mind map things about gap years. You can also do that by yourself, or you can do that on a group chat with some of your teammates from the class. So look at how you can make that more interactive with your teammates and build a closer team there by using this activity to get closer to your other team members. Here's a kind of small activity that you can do with some of your friends in the class. Perhaps call them up and practice this conversation over the phone, or use Kakao Talk or Line or some other application, WeChat, QQ, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, any of those that you find fun. So here's 8 questions, and what 2 things do you usually do? And then there's 8 things there. So basically, let's start with the first one. I'll talk about myself. What 2 things do I usually do at the beach? If I go to the beach, I just like to walk along the beach and look at the sea and reflect, and I like to be quiet at the beach. I don't like crowded beaches. Sometimes I go jogging on the beach. So I think those 2 things, just reflecting and being quiet, and jogging along the beach when I'm in England. So what 2 things do you usually do at a pub? So obviously for me, I like to talk to my friends and have a drink. Sometimes when I'm in the pub, I like to play pub games like darts or pool or some other game like air hockey. There's lots of games in pubs which you can play. What 2 things do you usually do at a restaurant? Well, that's easy. Usually I eat at a restaurant, or I go on a date at a restaurant, or I go with friends to a restaurant. And here's the next one. What 2 things do you usually do at the gym? So I exercise, I like to do some cardio and running, and I went to the gym this week and I actually did some Pilates for the first time. Never done that before. So that was really good. I enjoyed that. And then at the library, what do I normally do at the library? So usually I borrow DVDs or books, or I use the computer to study or research, or I'd like to just sit there quietly and study something or read. That's my usual thing. What do I do at university? Well, I teach at university. I teach English there, and I also eat the food in the university lunch in the cafeteria, I suppose. What do I do in the subway? When I'm in the subway, I usually read a book or listen to music or just play a smartphone game as I go to work. And my last one, at home. So I like to watch dramas, I like to read books, do some journaling. So these questions are quite good for you. Practice those with each other. What do you do in these certain circumstances? This is a quick game that I like to play sometimes. It's actually not a quick game, it takes a while to do. But let me just explain the game. So this game is called NASA game. So you know NASA is the American company that works in space and collaborates with the US government. You are one of the crew on board a spaceship to rendezvous with the mothership on the lighted side of the moon. Mechanical difficulties, however, have forced your ship to crash land at a spot some 300 kilometers from the rendezvous point. The rough landing has damaged much of the equipment aboard. Your survival depends on reaching the mothership, and you have to choose the most essential items for the 300-kilometer trip. The 15 items left intact after landing are listed. Your task is to rank them in order of their importance to your crew in your attempt to reach the rendezvous point. Write down 1 for the most important, number 2 for the second most important, and so on through to number 15. So if you look on the left hand side, there are 15 things. So obviously you're on the moon, so you have to take that into consideration when you decide on what you need for this trip. So number 1, box of matches. Do you think box of matches are useful, and will they help you get to the rendezvous point? Number 2, concentrated food. I think concentrated food needs water to make it edible, I think. So number 3, 20 meters of nylon rope. Okay, it's a rope that's 20 meters long. Is it useful? Parachute silk. So that's a parachute that would help you out when you fall out of an airplane, but will it help you get around the moon? Portable heating unit, would that be useful for you? It's a heater. 2 .45 caliber pistols. Do you need any guns on the moon? What are you hunting? Are you hunting animals? I don't know. 1 case of tins of dried milk. So again, you need water for that. 2 50-kilometer tanks of oxygen. So you need oxygen to breathe, I think. And number 9 is a star map. So using a map of the stars to guide you. Do you think it would be useful on Mars? A life raft. A life raft is used when you land in the sea. Would that be useful on Mars? A magnetic compass. I don't know if the moon has a North Pole and a South Pole. If it does, maybe it would help. And then here's the essentials. Number 12, water. That will help you with the milk and the food. And the last one, and the next one, number 13, is signal flares, which you shoot into the sky to say where you are to other people so they can come and get you. You need a first aid kit maybe to help you if you've injured yourself, and a solar powered FM receiver transmitter. So it says here you're on the lighted side of the moon, so the sun is there. Would the solar powered FM receiver transmitter be useful while you're on the moon? So look at the list, decide yourself, then call a friend or message one of your group and compare your list with their list and ask them what they thought about this game. If you are comparing with other people, try to come to some agreement about the order of importance of the objects. Try to not just compromise and do rock, scissors, paper, but actually have a good discussion and compare and discuss and give your opinion, you know. And I think bigyo toron, you know, talking about this and discussing, you know, I think it will really help you, okay, to come to the correct or the best answer for this situation. Now we're going to look at the book. If we turn to page 126, as I said before, it's the unit on education, and the question is one road to success better than another? We can see in the picture people who are studying hairdressing. This is not considered an academic course in Korea. I think they do have special universities for people, or colleges and high schools for people who want to do hairdressing. And you can see here there's both a man and 2 women doing their hairdressing, and I think it might be in England, but I'm not 100% sure. So anyway, is that something you would like to do? Let's go to the discussion questions in Part A. Part A discussion questions. What does being successful mean to you? So is that about relationships, successful relationships, financial success, job success, and what does success mean to you? In your life, have you taken a traditional path or a non-traditional path to reach your educational and career goals? What are the advantages and disadvantages of each path? So for me, I went a little bit I went to work first after middle school, then went back to high school, and then went to university later on, and that's not really a traditional path for Koreans. I think traditional path for Koreans is going through middle school, high school, university, and then work, and then marriage, right, and then kids. I think that's traditional. So I think that has advantages, definitely, but there's lots of disadvantages with that, especially when you get older and you feel like you've not really lived life and you really regret that. So do you think it says in question 3, look at the photo, we've already looked at that. What are these students doing? We've already said that. How can learning a new skill lead to success? Do you think being a hairdresser can make you lots of money? Is it something that could make you a lot of money in the future? Okay, and part B on that page gives you a listening activity which you will need to do online. So do the listening and look at those questions on 1 to 2. Okay, and then let's go over to page 128, part D. Imagine you are meeting with a career counselor to decide what career, that's job, you want to have. What kind of skills and experiences would help you get the job you desire? And then it's got a questionnaire here, and if you look at the questionnaire, you see a man who plays the violin or some musical instrument, and a woman who's I think a veterinarian for horses. So here's the career questionnaire. Name: James Sudbury, age 45. What is one skill or talent you wish you had? I wish I could do engineering. Or business. What are some ways you could learn that skill or talent? I could go to college again, or I could just watch YouTube videos about engineering, or I could buy a car, take it apart, fix it, put it back together, or buy some other electrical thing and do it myself, learn myself. In what kinds of jobs or careers can you use that skill? Well, engineering, you can use engineering skills in engineering jobs, and that's what I would try to find. Here are some ways to learn more about yourself and develop your skills. Check the ones that interest you. Number 1, volunteer work. Yeah, I'd like to do that. Number 2, teaching. Yeah, I already do that. Taking classes. Yeah, I need to do that. I think I'm going to start Pilates. International travel. I need to do more of that. I haven't been to many countries. Working with animals. That's a good idea, but I'm allergic to animals. Reading how-to books. Well, I like reading. So then, after you've completed your career questionnaire, go to discuss these questions in a group. Question number 1. What are some possible benefits of taking a year off from school or work to do something else? What might the disadvantages be? I think the benefits are you can have time to think about your future. The disadvantages might be that you might not be making any money at that time. If you took a year off from school, what kinds of experiences would you seek? I think I would like to learn a new skill, get trained in some way to do a different kind of job where there's a need right now, so I can make more money, I suppose. Then let's go to page 129, which is note-taking skills. Comparing and contrasting notes on multiple topics. When you hear information about related topics, it can be helpful to build a chart so you can easily compare and contrast the main ideas about each topic. Label the columns in your chart with the topics and label the rows with the examples. Then write notes about each topic in the appropriate box. This is a great way to review and edit your notes after a lecture and to make connections between lectures and readings. Listen to the class discussion about non-traditional approaches some businesses have taken to success. Complete the chart. So here we've got the companies. There's 3 companies here. Ben and Jerry's, Lululemon, and Starbucks. Okay, Lululemon. Okay, and then you've got the history of the company, the success they had, and the problems they faced. So you'll need to listen to that. So you need to go onto IQ Online, have a quick listen, and see if you can fill in the blanks there, and we can check that in class. Use your notes to write a paragraph comparing and contrasting the companies discussed in the lecture. So once you've done this table, you can now write a paragraph to compare and contrast what you heard. So if you do that, I'd like to check that in class. Okay, this slide I've made a mistake. Basically, take the vocabulary from page 130. Okay, so you want to go to page 130. So in this activity, I want you to take there's 12 words from page 130 and make it into a story. You can use between 5 and 8 words, and it's got to be a crazy story, quite unusual story. So if you see in the picture, you can see a cat and the dog. They're in trouble with the police. That's kind of random. So maybe if you use the phrase climb the ladder, the dog climbed the ladder into the house and stole something, but the cat was more loyal to the owner, so he caught the dog and gave him into the police, but the police thought the cat was working with the dog, but the cat said, no, I want to be a police officer, that's my career path. And the cat had a better attitude than the dog, and so she was a model to other people. So I've used some of the words from there and made that into a crazy story. So there's 12 words and phrases there: advancement, attitude, career path, climb the ladder, count on, currently, devote, loyal, model, radically, stable, and structure. So if you can make a story using those, that would be quite interesting. I recommend you work in pairs or groups. So again, use Kakao Talk and contact them. And so make a crazy story from page 180. So this is another activity. It's a role play. We've been talking about gap years from school, and I want us to go to page 148 and 149, and it's the unit assignment. And you are a group of friends. You're discussing the possibility of a gap year. Where do you want to travel to? What do you want to do there? What are the pros and cons of a gap year? What could you learn? What would your parents say? So if we go to the unit assignment on page 148, you need to complete the activity. So there's an advertisement for a job opening. It's called Gap Staff Needs You. Gap Staff is looking for a consultant to join our exciting and energetic team. Consultants are responsible for working with clients to organize their gap year opportunities. Candidates for the job should be well organized, interested in working with students, and passionate about traveling, learning, and volunteering. The minimum requirements for the position are an undergraduate degree and 5 years of related work experience. Travel experience and the ability to speak another language are a plus. Call 1-888-555-5210. So there's information here about 4 people who applied for the job. There's Susan Jones, she's 59. She's got a lot of education and work experience. There's Doug, he's also got a lot of experience there, and with regards to education. There's Narayan, and there's Teresa Lopez. And basically what I want you to do is look at their lives and what they did, and I want you to think about what you would like to do for a gap year. Where do you want to travel to? So a lot of Koreans love to travel. I've spoken to many Koreans who've been to the USA and Europe, What do you want to do there? Some people like to go on working holidays to Australia, and that's kind of fun and you can make money. But what are the pros and cons? Some people waste their money when they travel. Some people, when they go there, want to study English but always hang out with Koreans, so they don't learn English. And so it can be a kind of waste of a time. It can be a waste of a year. It can be a hard year, a negative year. Also, you're not earning money, you're losing money. And what about your parents? How would they feel about it? Maybe they would be up in arms and upset and not wanting you to go because it's so difficult and tough when you live abroad. Yeah, so anyway, have a little discussion with your other mates around that. So here's some extra questions to ask yourself. From your point of view, what kind of experiences can you gain during a gap year? So ask this question to yourself, write your own answer, and then share this with some other friends from the class. So I remember doing my gap year, I worked in a voluntary organization and I worked in schools to mentor young people. I also did office work and I worked in a community and I did volunteering there, and honestly I think it's a great experience. I kind of wish I did better than what I did, but I felt like it was a good experience for me, and I think gap years can be great if you want to do voluntary work. Second question, in your opinion, what are the advantages or disadvantages of taking a gap year? So the disadvantage for that year was I wasn't earning any money, and in the end I didn't really get any sort of degree or some educational certificate from it. So it's not really, you're not developing your career, you're not developing your educational life, but it's great on your resume. You can tell them what you did, and they said, oh, the interviewer will be quite interested, and you can explain what happened and what you did during that time. And that's actually a good way to sell yourself if you did something positive like volunteering. Let's go to question 3. Do you think taking a year off is relatively new trend? Is it a new trend? So is it something that's quite new and modern? I mean, I can say that my mother and father never did a gap year. Honestly, I've only heard of gap years from people my age and younger, sometimes a bit older, but never from my parents' age. So I think it's a kind of Generation X thing. It's quite a new thing to do, and so that would be my justification of my opinion. I do hear of older people doing it now, but they're doing that to relive their youth and to be exciting and interesting. So the last question, are you planning to take a gap year after school, or rather continue working, studying without a break in between? Explain your decision. So what about you? Do you want to take a gap year at the end of your studies, or would you go straight into work? If it was me, it depends on what the job was. I think also it's good to take a few risks at your age, and if you're taking risks now, at least if you lose money, you won't lose a lot of, you'll have enough time to make up the money you lost. So if you're older like me, taking a gap year is not as wise, I think, although I hear many people do it. So what I want us to do now is turn to page 142, and we're going to look at simple, compound and complex sentences, and these activities on these pages are about this. So make the two simple sentences into compound sentences. Check the grammar rule on page 142, and so you can see that there. I want to go to Europe, I need to buy a flight ticket. So you're going to make that into a compound sentence usually. So let's have a look at simple, compound and complex sentences on page 142. The first one is, using a variety of sentence types will allow you to express a range of ideas in your speeches and presentations. There are 3 basic kinds of sentences. simple, compound, and complex. A simple sentence is one independent clause, one subject plus verb combination that makes sense by itself. I want to do research. A compound sentence is made up of at least two independent clauses joined together with a conjunction, such as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, or as. A complex sentence is made of at least one independent clause and one dependent clause. A dependent clause is not a complete idea by itself. The dependent clause begins with a subordinate conjunction, such as because, since, after, although, if, or when. We got there before. Okay. If the dependent clause comes before the independent clause, then a comma separates the two clauses. Although it is less stable, comma. Many workers prefer the new career model. Okay. So if we go back to compound sentences, you need to add for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, or as. So the first sentence there says, make the two simple I want to go to Europe, I need to buy a flight ticket. So what could you add in there? For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, or as. I personally would use the word so. I want to go to Europe, so I need to buy a flight ticket. I have started a new job. I have asked a lot of questions to my co-workers. Again, I have started a new job, so, or, and. I want to find a part-time job. I have been searching the internet. Again, I think you can put and or so there. Yeah. I want to find a part-time job, so I have been searching the internet. Okay. And continue with those and work on them. So this is more activities about sentences, and if you go to page 142 and stay on that page, these questions should be easily answered using the brown box on page 142. So which is compound and which is complex? So let's look at the first one. I have a friend in Nova Scotia and I often visit there. So the key word here is and, which is a conjunction, and is used with compound sentences. So both sentences are independent clauses and don't need each other. A dependent clause is one that needs the independent clause for a complete idea. So let's look at the second one. I have been going to the US since I was a little boy. Okay, in this case, I was a little boy is the dependent clause. The subordinate conjunction is since. So I was a little boy needs the other sentence. Okay, needs. You can't have I was a little boy by itself. I like chocolate, but I don't like chocolate milkshake. Okay, so there we go. But is another word from compound sentences and another conjunction. The class will start when all the students arrive. Again, all the students arrive is definitely a dependent clause. It's not a complete idea, so that needs to be a complex sentence. The professor got angry at the student because they were too late for class. So what is that one? Is that a compound or complex? That is a complex sentence. The last one, if I were you, I would definitely try to ask her out on a date. I don't know why I put that as a question. If I were you, which one is that one? Is that complex or compound? It's actually got the word if. Yeah. So let's finish there and have a nice evening, and I will talk to you in the class. See you soon. Gente, ele abre a boca assim, ó. Oi, eu sou o Neco Boneco. Legal. Não, senão a gente
pode estragar o brinquedo da